Hello, welcome back, or welcome if you're new. It's so good to see you today. My name is Vix and this is my channel, Goddess of Gore, where I like to talk about horror, thriller, fantasy and sci-fi books. This is a slightly late weekly wrap up for the second week of April. What I read for the week starting from the 9th of April, that is. So let's just get on with it, shall we? So I'm still taking part in the TransGirlApril readathon, and I read a couple of books from trans and non-binary authors this week, starting off with finishing Manhunt. This killed me, it destroyed me, it was so sad, and I did actually wonder how far off we are from something like this. Well, not with the whole testosterone virus that turns men into actual zombie sex cannibals. But you know, a lot of TERFs already think that men are actually like this already. But not their men, obviously. Or at least this is what social media would have you believe. And I have my own theories on the instigators and pot stirrers of this seemingly forcing cis women to be up in arms at trans women. This is not the place to discuss my conspiracy theories. But I do wonder how far off we are until it's an us and them backwards society. The propaganda that I see as a feminist cis woman is truly obscene. And when I say I'm a feminist, I don't mean in a TERF way. We've already been through this in my TBR video. Please go and look at that. But back to the book, this does have a lot of body horror in it, and graphic details of being torn apart, as well as graphic consensual and non-consensual sex scenes. But it has a war at its centre, a war of freedom and equality, friendships and love, and this book is truly so sad. There were lots of thought-provoking scenes in this book that, I'll be perfectly honest, I had never thought about as a cis woman reading from the point of view of a trans woman who hasn't had reassignment surgery. It was just a heartbreaking book, and I could honestly cry every time I think about Fran and Beth's friendship and how easily Fran dropped her and how Beth was forced into sex work. I'm really going to have to stop talking about it because I will cry. So after Manhunt, I needed something completely different that didn't want me to think about. So I chose Just Like Home by Sarah Gailey. And this was another amazing book. I couldn't put this one down. I needed to read and read and read until the very last page. So right from the off, you know that something has happened in the past to Vera and her family. They are outcast and unwelcome from the local shops in the local area, but we really don't get to see much of the townsfolk with their pitchforks through the whole of the book. And I'll be honest, we don't really get much detail about what actually happened to cause all of this. Vera has been called back to her childhood home where her father was arrested for the murders of several people years ago because her mother, who remained in the house all this time, is dying. She needs Vera to get everything in order before she dies so Vera doesn't have to deal with it all alone. And her mother does seem to genuinely fear for her safety once she is dead. She wants Vera to leave town as soon as possible. So Vera was so alone through her entire life, being an only child with these seemingly outcast parents, and she doesn't seem to have helped herself with her obsessive behaviours. From her finger clicking 4 times and her nightly routines, she did appear to have one childhood friend, but that went wrong, and it went wrong so badly. But through the book we are given tiny little nuggets, tiny insights into what her dad was doing when Vera was a little girl that upset her bedtime night after night, and how this changed everything about her. She dotes on her dad though, and he seemed to be the only source of parental love And it seemed like her mother loved her husband too, even though what was happening right there in the basement of the house. I have to wonder if it was more than just her father's choice to be the serial killer. Something unsettling has remained in the house though. But what is it? When her father was arrested, there was lots of death tourists who wanted to see the house of these grisly murders, and Vera's mother seemed to cash in on all this once Vera had left home, which she did, I think, when she was about 17, if I remember right. This didn't go down well with the townsfolk, who of course were victims to this too. Her mother had sold the whole event like a fairground, and was still doing so with the son of one of the authors who wrote a biography of her serial killer dad, James, who was taking up residence in the guest lodge in the garden. Ooh, I hated him. Shakes fist. He was a rotter. I immediately want to read everything that Sarah Gailey has written at once, but obviously I didn't. So instead I read Guards by Terry Pratchett. In the city of Ankh-Morpork, the Guild of Plasterers have a secret club. They have special knocks, special code words and cloaks. They have a cunning plan to take over the city, and they're not afraid to use a myth or a myth to get a seat of power. In the mountains of Copperhead, Carrot has just been told he's not a dwarf. At over 6 foot, you'd think he'd have had an inkling, but no. The two people he thought were his parents told him they found him amongst the wreckage of some carts and decided to look after him for just a little bit. But before they knew it, he was a man and getting himself into trouble with Minty Rock Smackers and her parents. And so it was time he went back to his own people. There he was, packed off with fresh underwear and a sword they found with him when he was a baby, and a letter to the patrician of the city, and a copy of the Book of Laws of Ankh and Morpork. He starts his new life in the city as a member of the City Watch, no less. What Carrot has, though, is an outdated list of laws. Ankh-Morpork is a den of criminals so powerful they have their own girls, and the City Watch is no more than town criers and human clocks. Watching as the slimy underbelly of the city goes about what we would call unlawful behaviour in plain sight, lacking the morals of society, but this doesn't stop Carrot. He arrests the head of the Thieves Guild for stealing and the landlord for serving past drinking time, as per his law book. As with all of the first books in the sub-genres of the disc, we get introduced to a whole new set of recurring characters, and this seems to have some excellent new ones in the City Watch crew. I can't wait to meet them all again already. This is an incredibly funny book. The humour in it is what I expect from Terry Pratchett, and of course it finishes with it all turning out alright in the end, and the wrong uns get their comeuppance and they all go home and have a cup of tea, which is what I love about the Discworld books so much. Then it was back to the TransGirlApril reads with Queen of Teeth by Hailey Piper. This little book of just under 200 pages was brilliant. I loved it so much. It was kind of based in present time, but at some point in the 1980s, this timeline went a little sideways a bit, like when Doc Brown is describing an alternate 1985 to Marty in Back to the Future. This was a sci-fi body horror, and it goes off for Yaya when she discovers that she has teeth in a place where there really shouldn't be any. She has vagina dentata, and it's not just 1 or 2 teeth. Oh, nay. She's got a full set of gnashers, and that's just the beginning. So Yaya has had monthly medical checkups for her whole life since a pharmaceutical company messed up big time when she was in utero with her mother's medication, and so as a result she has had free healthcare ever since. So when Yaya discovers teeth inside her, she thinks it's a side effect of the sinister company that is Alpha Beta Pharmaceuticals. This is honestly such a weird body horror ride that I couldn't not love it. There's not just the body changes that Yaya experiences, there's some amazing death scenes that you would expect to be in a slasher that I would heartily recommend to a lover of that subgenre as well as the usual horror fans. And I've just got one thing to say to you, Kimmy. Peanut butter.
Now I've got one word to say to you, Kim. Sharon's flesh-coloured eye patch.
If you know, you know. And that's everything that I finished. But what have I started? Well, I have started Light from Uncommon Stars by Ryka Aoki, and I'm not very far in. I'm not sure if I'm enjoying it just yet, but well, I'll give it a proper chance and I'll talk about it next week. So thank you so much for watching and hanging out with me today. I do hope I have inspired you to pick up one of these books, or have you read them already and agree with me? Let me know in the comments. Don't forget to like if you like this and subscribe if you haven't already. I will leave you as always with a quote from one of these books. Yeah, I got teeth down there. So what? She flashed a pearly grin. Make some good book choices this week, my friends, and I hope to see you all again soon. Until next time, bye-bye.